Wife kicked me out to protect her freeloading brother. So I quietly cut off payments, rebuilt my life with honest handyman work, let the bills and consequences catch up to them. Brother arrested, house sold, separated finances, and ended up calmer, financially stable, and free of being everyone's ATM. You don't get to call this a family if you won't protect mine, Lena said as she shoved a pile of my shirts toward the doorway. She didn't shout. The words landed soft and deliberate like a judge passing sentence. I folded my hands, picked up a toothbrush and a pair of boots, and left the rest on the dresser. The silence after felt heavier than any argument. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 34, I run HVAC crews on the north side, and I work long enough days that the city has mostly become a blur of roofs and ductwork to me. Lena and I had been married 6 years. Her brother Owen showed up 6 months earlier between jobs, and the line between short-term and moved in forever blurred in the way these things do. A pizza tonight becomes a rented couch tomorrow, which becomes a habit. That night I pulled into the driveway after a 12-hour shift and saw a fresh gouge along the passenger panel of my truck. It looked like metal had been dragged across. I felt that tight, stupid panic in my chest. Tools, paychecks, and bills, all right in that truck. I went up to the back door and stepped inside. The living room looked like someone had emptied a landfill. Takeout cartons, a pile of unopened mail, gaming headset cables tangled like vines. Owen was draped on the couch, controller in hand, shouting at the TV like every stranger in the lobby owed him attention. I went straight to the kitchen. My emergency envelope lived in the middle drawer. Cash for a breaker, a last-minute part, something to tide things over. It should have been $200. It was down to $60. I set my palm flat on the counter and kept my voice even. "Did you drive my truck today?" I asked. Owen barely glanced over. "Yeah. Needed to grab food, mate. You weren't answering." "There's a huge scratch down the side," I said. He didn't care. "Already there, man. Chill." He went back to yelling at whatever was on screen. Lena came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, phone in hand. "Ethan, stop. He's family. You're always looking for a problem." Her face had that impatient set I'd seen 1,000 times, the one that meant she'd already decided. "This isn't a fight," I said. "My truck was hit. My cash is missing. He used my truck without asking." "He's trying to get back on his feet," she said. "You're being controlling." I laughed, but it tasted flat. Trying for 6 months with no job, no chores, and no rent, I come home to a man on my couch who doesn't pay for toothpaste. Owen muted the game, leaned in like he'd been waiting for this. "Bro, relax. You sound like my landlord." "Then act like it. He can chip in or he can go." Lena's voice sharpened. "You don't talk to my brother like that in my house." "Your house?" I asked. The silence that followed was worse than any argument. She pulled out her phone and started dialing. "You're being aggressive. I'm calling the police." That word, police, shifted the room. I honestly thought she was bluffing. When the officers arrived, I opened the door for them myself. 2 calm faces, clipboard, and patience. Lena explained she was worried, that I was agitated. The younger officer asked if anyone was injured. I said no and told him I was leaving for the night. I packed a duffel, with a couple sets of clothes and my laptop, placed my house keys on the kitchen counter next to a tower of empty soda cans, and told them, "You might need these more than I do." I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I walked out quiet and kept my dignity in my pocket. Sam, my old friend from the shop, put me up that night. His 1-bedroom above the garage smelled like motor oil and stale coffee. He handed me a blanket and said, "You can crash here, don't make it complicated." There's a kind of comfort in someone who says less and shows more. We ate cold pizza on hood of his car later, under a buzzing streetlight, and he told me plainly, "Don't go back." That first week I built a new routine by force. Sunrise push-ups, gas station coffee, early starts. I stopped checking my phone for what's going on. Silence, surprisingly, felt like a gift when it stopped being loaded with tension. I slept on Sam's mattress, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. I opened my accounts and went through every line. Mortgage, utilities, subscriptions, everything. The mortgage was in my name. That meant I had control of cash flow, but foreclosure loomed if I walked away entirely. I did what you do when you refuse to be anyone's free safety net. I cleaned things up. I canceled cards, removed autopays, changed passwords, moved direct deposits. I didn't do anything illegal, I just stopped giving my money away. A friend recommended a lawyer, Victor Lin. Quiet, efficient, no drama. He confirmed what I suspected. I couldn't toss someone out of their own legal home without the courts, but I could stop funding the extras. He gave me a checklist. Cut joint cards, require manual payments for utilities, cancel non-essential subscriptions, keep the mortgage current until we separated formally. Do it quietly, he said. No speeches. Just stop paying what isn't your responsibility. That advice suited me. I filled my days fixing things at Sam's place and taking small jobs I posted on a local board. A leaky faucet, a sagging fence post, a cabinet. Within a week, I had 3 calls. There was a simple satisfaction to repair work, the kind that returns a place to function. It kept me sharp and distracted. Meanwhile, Lena plastered social media with snapshots of home harmony, a smug little caption under each. I didn't engage. The fewer people who knew what I was doing, the cleaner the break. As the weeks passed, I organized every bill I'd been carrying and switched payment responsibility. The grocery card declined once at the local market. Lena's text blew up my phone. Why did the card decline? And then the calls began. The internet's out. The water bill is overdue. Are you really going to do this? I didn't answer most of them. When I did, I kept it short. You said you wanted independence. That response landed harder than any argument had. From the outside, the house looked the same. From the inside, it started to unravel. Tenants who don't chip in aren't an abstract problem. You start missing repairs, service calls go unpaid, things stop working. They argued. Owen ranted about being abandoned. Lena pleaded and tried to patch things. I watched from the periphery while the math of it caught up to their rhetoric. If you don't put your own money in, you can't complain about how things are paid for. My side work grew. Property managers liked someone who showed up on time and didn't cut corners. Word spread, people tipped me extra, and I refused. I wasn't chasing cash, I was chasing peace. 3 weeks after I left, the house darkened for the first time. Utility companies can only hold off so long. Lights went out. No Wi-Fi, no hot water. Owen flipped. He smashed a plate against the wall. He blamed Lena. He blamed me. He threw a bottle, punched a hole in drywall. Neighbors called the police. This time, the officers didn't linger. They cuffed Owen in the living room while Lena sat stunned on the steps. The call that ended with sirens became the pivot point Lena had been avoiding. The morning after Owen was taken away, I signed separation paperwork with Victor. The plan was clean. List the house, separate finances, and keep the mortgage current until escrow. No rhetoric, no humiliation. Just the legal separation that would put distance between my name and the mess left behind. That night, alone in Sam's apartment while tightening a cabinet hinge, I remembered an old pizza box on a boxed floor. The first night Lena and I moved in together, laughing about our future. That memory didn't scream or burn. It was a quiet thing that lived in another version of us. I didn't feel righteous, I felt resolved. 6 weeks later, the house sold. The wire cleared. The keys changed hands. The thing I'd built with my hands and money became someone else's problem. I kept the mortgage current until it closed. No petty refusals, no games. I'd wanted order, not vengeance. Life settled into a straightforward rhythm. The apartment I found was small, but it was mine. I'd set the desk facing the window, made a habit of checking my schedule twice a day, and kept my tools lined up in a way that made sense. I was invited to more jobs, fences, small remodels, outlet rewires. Clients trusted someone who did honest work and showed up clean and on time. Word of mouth had replaced the household drama as my primary noise. Lena called once, voice thin. They arrested him. I said nothing, then hung up. It was a moment of quiet confirmation. Consequences had finally arrived. A month later, she sent a message that was mostly just, I'm working 2 jobs, paying off the debt. I saved that message, not out of spite, but as a record. The lawyer's checklist I kept in a folder labeled closure. A few months in, I ran into Owen on the street. Messy hair, sling of a backpack, head down. He asked for a place to crash. My answer was mechanical. Try a job application. He muttered something about me being heartless. I didn't look back. I had boundaries now. That's what they wanted to call being cold. I called it self-preservation. The business grew steady. I had a maintenance contract with a local landlord, repeat clients, and a reputation for not cutting corners. My hands were calloused and sure. My sleep improved. There were no late-night fights, no drinks left on tables. I learned how to be boring in the best way. Months later, Lena and I met in a park. She looked smaller, tired rather than theatrical. She admitted she'd made mistakes, that she'd prioritized loyalty to a sibling over partnership. We sat for a while without the need to perform. When she asked if reconciliation was possible, I said, maybe someday, not now. When you can stand on your own 2 feet, then maybe. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. She left with no theatrics, just a small nod. The difference between this and revenge was simple math. Revenge is loud and messy. I chose order. I stopped saving people who refused to help themselves. That decision was quiet but effective. The bills stopped getting paid because of me. The responsibilities moved back to those living under that roof. The house collapsed under the strain of unpaid service calls and mismanaged spending. The consequence was not my doing. It was the logical outcome of choices. 6 months after the house sold, I had clients lined up 3 weeks out. My apartment stayed tidy. I taught myself how to cook a few decent meals: grilled chicken, rice, roasted veg. My phone stopped being a source of anxiety. The silence was clean, not empty. Occasionally, I'd get updates. Lena saved another bill, then another. She sent a photo of a paid statement. Small things, incremental changes. Owen moved out of town. I didn't follow up. Some people move through cycles only when the world knocks them. Sometimes it's a lesson. Sometimes it's just a repeatable pattern. Not my problem. One evening, Sam waved me over to the shop. He looked at me over the grill of a car and grinned. You actually look different. Not tired. You look like you sleep. It was a good line. I laughed and shrugged. Toolbox never lies, I said. It's honest. There were nights when I thought about picking up the phone to apologize in some theatrical way. I didn't. I'd already given the thing worth more. My consistency, my work, my presence. There's no redeeming that with words once the other side chooses habit over partnership. The quieter victories came in smaller things. Being able to pay my own bills without double-checking. A new contract that meant steady income. A cup of coffee on the balcony without the hum of someone else's crisis. I started waking up earlier, cooking breakfast, heading out with a list. My body tightened, my mind calmed. Stability replaced the adrenaline of caretaking. 6 months to the day after I left, I found a small card in my inbox. Thanks for everything, even the hard lessons. Lena had sent it without expecting anything back. I didn't reply immediately. I sat with my coffee and read it twice, then set the phone down. I didn't need to reply to be done. The message was the punctuation on the sentence I'd been living. When I sleep now, it's the kind of sleep that doesn't come with dread. I find the windows open in the morning, and the apartment feels like someone who lives there respects it. My tools are lined on the shelf, my calendar is full, and my clients trust me. People talk about winning like it's fireworks. For me, it was aligning the everyday, paying my mortgage until the house was sold, setting boundaries, rebuilding a business from honest work. That felt like winning. I didn't ruin anyone. I just stopped saving them. The closing papers arrived on a Wednesday. Victor called in the morning and told me to swing by his office with a pen. The house sold for a reasonable number, not the market top, but enough to pay the mortgage, settle a few creditors, and put a small buffer in my account. The wire hit the same afternoon. I watched the number clear and felt the kind of relief that isn't loud. It's the slow relaxing of a muscle you didn't know you were holding tight. Victor handed me the stack of documents. Sign here. Initial there. This ends joint liabilities on your side, he said. He folded the paperwork into a neat packet, slid it across the desk, and then looked at me in that practical way lawyers do when a case wraps up and there's nowhere left to hide. "You did this clean," he said. "No theatrics, no court fights. Efficient." That was the point. I hadn't wanted a courtroom spectacle. I wanted order. The easiest way to keep someone from dragging you into their chaos is to have paperwork that says you don't belong there anymore. There were last things to do. I transferred final account statements to a storage drive and shredded the rest. I canceled joint utilities and made sure all bills in my name were settled. Through the closing date, the last thing to sign was a small waiver about a disputed service call from a year prior. Paperwork that, in another world, could have been a fight. We signed it and smiled at how small leftover things can be when bigger problems are solved. Owen pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge related to the vandalism and one charge for domestic disturbance. He was fined and given community service with a mandated counseling order. It wasn't a dramatic fall, no jail, no tabloid headline, but it was a wake-up that included a court date and a sobriety check. The consequences had teeth without theater. That seemed to work better for everyone involved. Lena's family visited him at the community center for the first few sessions. She texted me once to say quietly that he was showing up. I filed that update in the small things that matter folder in my head. Lena and I met twice after the sale closed. Once to exchange a few personal things she wanted, and once at a mediator's office where we split the remainder of our things. We spoke plainly. No recriminations, no accusations. She apologized without theatrical flourishes, which made it feel sincere. I told her what I needed: space, boundaries, and a commitment to basic responsibility if we ever tried again. She listened. I don't know if we'll get back to anything like us. Maybe someday. Right now, it's better that we both act like adults. Work filled the space that used to be occupied by worry. The small maintenance business continued to grow at a steady, practical clip. I picked up a couple of longer contracts with local landlords and a small property management company. Those deals changed the math in a way that felt stable. Steady income, predictable weeks, and the ability to plan out small upgrades, tools, a used van with better mileage, a new set of quality work boots. I started keeping a proper ledger again and actually looked at it once a week instead of once a month. The muscle memory of paying attention came back. I also started being picky. No more last-minute, "Can you bail me out?" calls from the old social circle. If someone needed help, they got a fair price. If they wanted a charity rate, they got a referral to the community program I'd been donating a few hours to each month. That program taught young people basic trades. I volunteered on Saturday mornings, showing a kid how to hang a door frame properly, talking through measuring mistakes, letting them hold the level. Doing that felt like small, useful penance and like a direct way to help people build competence rather than dependence. There were quiet social costs to what I did. My parents asked questions. Friends took sides in muted ways. Mutual acquaintances assumed things without asking. At first, that stung. Then, it didn't. There's a difference between being misunderstood and choosing to be okay with it. I stopped explaining myself to anyone who wasn't writing a check or showing up for work. A few months after things settled, Lena sent a text. "He's stable, thanks." I replied with a single word, "Okay?" That's the tenor of the rest of it. Short, clean messages that don't pull me back into living rooms I've walked out of. It's enough. I dated once, briefly. It felt like trying on a jacket in a store. Soft at first, promising. Then, a reminder that I was better at being myself when I didn't try too hard. The woman I went out with was kind and steady, and asked about things I'd fixed with my own hands, not about drama. We had 2 good weeks and spent one Saturday sanding a table in my garage as a neutral, constructive activity. It didn't go anywhere, and that was fine. For a while, the toolbox was company enough. What surprised me most wasn't that the house sold, or that my bank balance stopped being a calculator of other people's emergencies. It was the way life, when cleared of that noise, let other things grow, better sleep, clearer decisions, and a few friendships that started to feel reciprocal. That's the metric I watch now. Is this reciprocal? Is this predictable? Does this respect me as a person and as a worker? If the answer is yes, it stays. If it's no, it goes. I keep the old photo from the pizza on the floor night in a small cardboard box in the closet. Sometimes I wonder if nostalgia would ever convince me to take another swing at what we had. The truth is, nostalgia is a soft lens that flattens the cracks. Memory is generous that way. I value the memory, but I won't trade my present stability for a glossy past. There are things I still do that show the old me. I check in on my folks, help them around the yard, fix their leaky gutters. I volunteer with the trades program. I mentor an apprentice named Marco, who shows up early and asks smart questions. We meet for coffee. He's hungry to learn. Passing on practical skills feels like building a kind of insurance policy for the world, one that runs on competence, not on favors. If there's a single line to close on, it's this: I didn't seek to ruin them. I stopped enabling them. That distinction matters. There's a cheap delight in revenge, something bright and immediate, but it rarely lasts. Quiet boundaries last, paperwork lasts, night shifts, early mornings, and clean work last. They end up being the kind of victory that isn't ostentatious. It's useful. The city moves on. I move on too. The nights are quiet, my tools hang in neat rows, and the coffee machine is always ready. I watch the horizon from my balcony, not because I need to prove anything, but because for once I know the view belongs to me. If you've been reading because you're stuck in the middle of someone else's mess, paperwork first, boundaries second, dignity third, the rest follows.